الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Ibrahim, let's see if it's coming on YouTube. Is it just coming? Yeah. It's blocked on my phone, so I don't know. Okay. Alright, so inshallah, last year we had this Q&A for zakat as well. So inshallah what we'll do, the way that we'll do it is, we had given a link. If anybody wants to submit a question now, you could go to, what happened? I don't know, Mama's probably going to be asleep, I don't know. Okay, if you want this link, if you want to submit a question online, you can go in the Tawheed Center WhatsApp group. They sent something a few days ago. But, a lot of messages be coming in there. So you could go to slido.com, slido.com, and enter this code, 3228172. Yeah, Slido, slido.com, and the code is 3228172. And also, if you go in the Tawheed Center WhatsApp group, they sent the link yesterday, I believe. Okay. Jiji, sabko de de inshallah. Jazakallah. Oh, no, jazakallah. Jazakallah. Okay, last time that code is 3228172. If somebody needs it upstairs, you could just knock, and maybe I'll repeat it another time in a little while. 3228172. Otherwise, we could begin. I think we could just start with the questions online. After we start the online questions, then after that, we could just ask anybody. What I'll do is, because it's being recorded, I'm gonna just give you the mic, right? Let me do this. We'll give you the mic, so then if anybody has a question, you can ask on the mic so others can hear as well, so I don't have to keep repeating the question too. All right, the first question that came is the most famous question, the one that everybody asks. Do we need to give zakat on retirement funds like 401k and Roth IRA? If so, how to calculate, right? Do we have to give zakat on retirement funds like 401k and Roth IRA? If so, how to calculate? The short answer, yeah. Okay, the short answer is yes, there is zakat on a 401k, there is zakat on a Roth IRA, there's going to be zakat on all of these things, okay? But how? The scholars have given different opinions on these things, right? The first, opinion that the American Fiqh Academy has given is zakat is due on the entire on the entire 401k. So whatever balance you have to give zakat on it. Keep in mind, zakat is fard to be calculated every year. But a person doesn't necessarily have to pay it every year. So for example, you have a lot in your 401k and you can't pay that zakat now. You could pay it later. You could pay it when you withdraw from your 401k. But you have to calculate every year that this much zakat is due, right? Okay, so that's number one. American Fiqh Academy, they say give zakat on the entire thing. So the second opinion is Amja. They say, Mufti Rabbani Sahib in IGD, he also says that it's going to be whatever you would get in hand today. So if you withdrew your 401k today, you're going to have to pay tax and you're going to have to subtract penalty as well, right? So whatever the tax rate is, and then I think there's a 10% penalty that you'll have to pay. So whatever you get in hand today, if you were to withdraw it today, you would give zakat on that, right? Keep in mind for a Roth IRA, it's a little bit different because the principal that you put in, you could withdraw that whatever, right? It's the earnings that have the tax and penalty and all of that on there. All right, the third opinion that's given by Mufti Faraz Adam, he's written about this. He's the first place I seen it. Then I think Fiqh Council, they also adopted that a little bit. They said basically whatever the balance is, right, on your 401k, you take 25% of that. So just to make the math easy, let's say you had $100,000 in your 401k, right? Now, I don't know if I don't have a 401k, but if there's gold, if there's a commodities in there, or if there's cash in there, those things you're going to have to deduct from this amount. Like you're going to put those to the side. You're going to have to give zakat on 100% of that. But for all of the mutual funds and everything in there, you're going to take 25%. So let's say the 401k was $100,000. So you take $25,000, right? And you give zakat on that $25,000. The reasoning behind this is that when a person owns a stock, essentially you have ownership stake in a company, right? And when you have ownership stake in a company, not everything in that company is zakat paid on. Like for example, you have a building. So your building, you don't pay zakat on the building that your business is in, but the building, it has value, right? And that's part of your net worth or your business's worth. So there's a lot of things in businesses that are not zakatable. So they did averages of many of the big companies and big stocks, and they came out to about 25% of the stocks on average or less is zakat eligible. So, meaning of zakatable assets. Therefore, they say take 25% of the 401k and give zakat on that amount. So if you had $100,000 in the 401k, again, if you had cash or commodity in there, you would give zakat on 100% of that portion. But the rest, $100,000, you take 25%. And from that 25%, which is $25,000, you would take 2.5%. Okay? So I think it comes out, in that case, it's easy. It's $2,500. But yes, it's 2,500. No, it's 625, right? $625, I believe is what it is. Yeah, I was taking it from 100,000, right? So that's what it is, right? Those three opinions, different scholars have different opinions. You could take whichever one you're comfortable with. And I know from experience that not everybody is going to take that 25% one, because some people in their temperament, in their mizaj, they're just cautious. I know some people like, I don't feel comfortable unless I give it on the whole thing. Then who am I to say don't give it on the whole thing, right? Personally, I don't have the 401, but I got the other one. I give zakat on the whole thing, right? That's fine. I feel happy with that, Okay, next. Can you please verify that the Sayyid caste is not a nice word, but can you please verify that Sayyid people are not eligible for zakat while the Prophet ﷺ was from the Quraysh tribe? I don't really understand the second part of the question where it says where he is from the Quraysh tribe. I don't know how that's relevant, but Sayyids, right? Sayyids are all of those who are descendants of Rasulullah ﷺ from their father's side, right? So for example, my mother is Sayyid, but my father is not, so I'm not Sayyid, right? Now, a Sayyid, because I guess I understand, maybe he was from the Quraysh, so this, every other Hyderabadi is Sayyid Husseini, right? So how do all these guys who can't read Quran properly all of a sudden say that they're Sayyid and related to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam because they're not Qurayshi? Well, obviously people intermarried, right? That's how. And there's a lot of people, they could verify the fact that they're Sayyid. Now, for a Sayyid, by default, it's not permissible to give them zakat. Why? Zakat is purifying our wealth. So the filth of our wealth is coming out, and the family of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is entitled to better than this. So we should give gifts. Sadaqah can be given to them. Gifts can be given to them. Zakat can be given. There are some scholars from the different mazahib, all four mazahib, who have said, well, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's family, they were entitled to khums. Khums was whenever there was a battle, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would get 1/5 of those spoils of war, and he would have his discretion how to use it, and he would give it to his family. They said since that doesn't exist anymore, zakat can be given to the Sayyids. However, I would recommend against that, because again, most scholars are against that. And again, it's not the status of a Sayyid that you give them something lower. You know, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, and this is a governing principle we should come in that we should keep in mind when it comes to zakat. And that governing principle is that inna fil mali haqqan siwa zakat. That wealth, your wealth, inna fi malika la haqqan. Aw kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam, siwa zakat. There are other rights on your wealth other than zakat. Because we think like nowadays the concept here is zakat equals a tax. So when we think about tax, there's no good deed in paying extra taxes, okay? Probably bad deed, given that what our tax dollars are used for, right? There's no good deed in paying extra tax. So you look for deductions when it comes to tax. But people take this mentality towards zakat as well. So every dollar that I have, how can I count it towards my zakat? You see in the language that people use, zakat liability is what people have said. People have told me, I am the head of a household with 3 dependents. These are all tax language, right? So anyways, yeah, the Sayyids, we should not give them zakat. All of the 4 mazhabs are in agreement, though individual scholars from the 4 mazahib may have said that you can. Majority opinion is not to. And I have a friend, personally, who's involved in an organization. And what this organization's goal is, subhanAllah, what they do is they collect sadaqah just to give to Sayyids, poor Sayyids in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other places. Okay. If you guys have any follow-ups on these, go ahead and ask. You know, like this is not like a lecture, it could be open. It's just now we have 24 questions online, that's why I'm going through them. Again, if you guys want to follow up, go ahead, call out, inshallah, no problem. And again, I'm not saying I know everything, so I might say I don't know, right? And if I don't know, inshallah, I'll try to find out. Okay, next one. When we are calculating the zakat on jewelry, does the 15% for impurities deduction on gold will be calculated on the total amount or per item? Again, I'm going to do my best trying to figure out what these questions they say. But what I'm guessing is, look, gold, it's of different levels of purity, right? You have 24 karat gold, then you have 22 karat gold, and there's different carats of gold, right? So the carats mean that how much pure gold is in there, because gold is very soft, you have to mix things inside of the gold to make it harder. Now what you do when you have a piece of jewelry, first of all, the entire thing is not going to be considered gold or silver. What you'll do is you'll go to a jeweler and ask them what is the gold or the silver content in this. What is the gold or silver content in this piece of jewelry? And they'll very easily be able to tell you that. So you find out how much gold you have. The easiest way to find out how much zakat you have to give on your gold, the easiest way is you call 3 or 4 jewelers, local jewelers in the area, ask them, if I sell you this much gold, and you tell them the carats and everything, if I sell you this much gold, how much will you buy it for me? So let's say you have 800 grams of gold. Women, they have a lot of gold, right? A woman has 800 grams of gold. And that's when you take all the gold, you took out all the jewels and everything in her pieces. 800 grams of gold. She calls 3 or 4 jewelry stores. How much would you buy this much gold? And you tell them the amount, the carats of gold. Whoever gives you the highest price, that's what your zakat prices do. Because that's what that gold is worth to you. That's how much you can get with it. That's your buying power with that gold. It's not what the gold rate is when you look online. That's actually be much, much higher than what you can actually get for your gold, right? If you can't do that, if you can't call jewelers or whatever, then what you could do is just look online for the scrap metal value of gold. Scrap metal value of gold, and in that case you would take 24 karat. Otherwise, just call a few jewelers. You guys tell me now, in this area, Dearborn, Garden City, etc., what are a few jewelers? Tell me the names, so I'll call them out. Some people might not know. What is it? Okay, Ram Jewelers, where? Okay, Ram Jewelers in Farmington Hill. Somebody said something? Okay, Ram Jewelers. Anyone else? Farah Jewelers in Dearborn. Anyone else? Okay, Tappers also buys gold. You can call these few places, see who's going to give you the most for your gold. All right? So you're not going to deduct 15% or anything like that. Just find out the gold content of the piece or the silver content and ask them how much they'll buy it from you. But don't show them the piece, how much are you going to buy this piece. Later on, say, if I had this much gold, this many carat gold, how much would you buy it for? Okay, next thing. As an international student, I got a job 5 months ago. Am I eligible to pay zakat now that I'm saving? This is very nice, the way he asked the question. Why? This shows this person's ikhlas. He's not saying, am I liable for zakat? He's saying, am I eligible? It's an honor to be able to pay zakat, right? So am I eligible? Am I worthy of paying zakat? Does cash need to be held for 1 year before paying zakat? Okay, to answer this question, let's just understand when zakat becomes farz on a person. There is a thing called the nisab. Nisab is translated as quantum, or maybe an easier way to understand is a base threshold of wealth that a person needs to have after subtracting all of their short-term liabilities and debts. If you have that amount of money, that is when you begin your year. So this student, he began his school. Let me tell you what is the nisab today. One second. Darus Salam has on their website. Nisab index. Let's see, do they have it today? I mean, they update it daily. Let me just see, just so we have it now, inshallah. So I can tell you so we can understand better. Nisab standard. And he's not telling you the Nisab standard though. Let's see, 100,000. Okay. So, all right. Khair. Anyways, we'll find it later. The Nisab right now, it's around $9,000 though. Because it's 87.5 grams of gold, what the value of that is. Now, this is not how much you could sell the gold for. This is the gold price, right? Anyway, I mean, you could find Sharia Board New York, they have it on their website. This Darus Salam has it. Other websites, they have it as well. But the nisab is around $9,000. So when a person, again, the value fluctuates. But when you have $9,000, again, I'm just using that as the example for nisab. When you have that and you subtract out all of your debts and everything, and you're still above $9,000, that's when your year starts. You need to record the Islamic date. Because remember, zakat is not due in Ramzan. Zakat is due when your zakat year comes around. And when does your zakat year come around? 1 year from the time that you get nisab. So let's say that this student, he started working 5 months ago. 5 months ago is what, maybe Jumada Ula. So in Jumada Ula, on the 5th of Jumada Ula, alhamdulillah, he saved money. Initially, he didn't get the amount, but now he has nisab, right? When he has the nisab, he's going to write down 5th Jumada Ula. 1 year later, on 5th Jumada Ula, no moonsiding calculation discussion here, right? On 5th Jumada Ula, he's going to see what is the nisab today. Nisab might have gone up or down, right? And then he's going to see, do I still have more than the nisab? If yes, then pay zakat. If no, then there's no zakat due on him, right? In the middle, if the money goes up or down, above or below, that doesn't matter. You just look at at day 0, and then 1 year from there. The reason that it doesn't matter if you go up and down is because the reason that the Sharia has given us 1 year to figure out if we're zakat eligible or not. The reason being that 1 year gives you time to go through the different ups and downs of life. Sometimes you're down, sometimes you're up. But over the course of a year, if you are able to maintain this threshold of wealth, then zakat is due. You don't look at the majority of the amount of time. You don't say, well, I had the nisab on day 1, then majority of the year I didn't have it, then I got my tax refund the day before zakat is due. You still have to give zakat. You just look at the first day and the last day. Bas. So for his question is, you're going to have to see if you have nisab. When you have nisab, go 1 year from forward. Yes. Oh, very good question. 1 year, when you look on your zakat date, what your job is to do is you have to calculate your zakat. You don't necessarily have to give it then, but you have to know this is how much wealth I have, okay, cash on hand, stocks, all of that. And then on that day you calculate. You can give it later. You can give zakat earlier too. If an opportunity comes up, if you want to give in Ramadan, but your zakat date comes in Dhul Qa'dah, for example, you could give zakat in Ramadan. But in Dhul Qa'dah, you're going to calculate on your date how much zakat is due, and then you'll subtract what you've already paid. And if you pay extra, this is a one, I guess, tax type similarity, it rolls over to the next year as well. So let's say you only owed $1,000 in zakat, but you gave $2,000 early. It will apply towards the next year's zakat as well. Okay? Yes?
One clarification. So for the whole year, just want to make sure the last day counts as what you usually say is zakat.
Yes, that's the only day that matters. Day one, when you're above the nisab. And again, above the nisab means that you're subtracting out all of your debts and liabilities and all of that. Short-term debt. Short-term debt means debt that is due within 1 year, right? And then 1 year from then, on that same day, you're going to look. It doesn't matter what happened in the middle.
Follow-up question. Let's say I did not start or started calculating my year. So when can I start going now?
So you didn't start, so you don't know like when you had nisab, right? Okay, so if you wanted to be really specific about it, you could look in bank statements and this and that. If you're not able to do that, estimate. Estimate, okay, around what time did I get the nisab? You'll have a general idea. Choose that date and stick to that date. Right? Yes. There's not more ajr in doing directly or spread it out. It's every person looks at the situation, right? لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at the need of the time. Sometimes there's a need to give immediately. Sometimes there's a need to spread it out. You look at, you use your best judgment about what is the best thing to do. And then you do. Sometimes I'll tell you, you'll be surprised. You may get more reward for giving zakat outside of Ramadan than inside of Ramadan. Why? Because there's a need. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not dependent on, okay, I'm giving this much reward or that much reward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give bighayri hisab, without any hisab. Okay, you had a question? This is the last nisab related question. After that, they'll come at the end because we have to get through these other ones too. Yeah.
Can you expand on the short-term in terms of like long-term loans and mortgages and stuff?
Okay, good. Okay, short-term debt and long-term debt. This is also related to nisab as well. Short-term debt means anything that's due within 1 year. Okay? Whatever is due within 1 year. So for example, let's say you have a car payment. 12 months of car payments. You could take that out. Mortgage, yeah, you could take out one year of that. Although ulama say that, look, I don't want to open this can of worms, but they say if there's interest due, you can't deduct the interest. You're only going to deduct the principal payment, okay? And then like tax, all of that 1 year you could deduct ahead, right? Long-term debt, so like mortgage and those types of things, what you're going to do is you'll see what's due within 1 year, right? So like let's say you have a $200,000 mortgage, but how much are you going to pay this year? If you're going to pay $24,000, for example, you could deduct that from your asset base, okay? Before calculating nisab. Next thing is personal debts. Personal debt, you don't look at 1 year or not. So a personal debt, like a qard, somebody owed you money, you deduct the entire amount until it's paid off. You don't divide it into year by year. Even if they told you, pay me this much by every year, you still deduct the entire amount. The reason for this is that the default in Sharia is that when it comes to a qard, a person can demand it at any time from you. Even if they told you pay it over this many years, it's not nice that they do that, but they wouldn't be sinful if they demanded it immediately as well. Okay? So, all right, next question. Okay, somebody owes me money, but I'm not sure they will repay it. Do I still include it? Welcome to the club. We all have somebody like that, right? If you're not sure that they're going to repay it, you do not add that to your zakat asset base when collecting zakat, okay? And however, if you get it later on, if you get it later on, you still don't have to give zakat retroactively. It's like it's gone if you're assuming they're not giving it. But it can't just be that you're like, I gave him 50,000, I don't think he's going to give it. No, like there has to be signs, like the person is denying the debt. The person has a history of doing this to other people. A person has a history of doing it to you. He keeps delaying and keep delaying and keep delaying. Like there has to be some sign that he's not, going to pay it back. And really at the end of the day, this is between you and Allah, right? if you can't come to me and say, well, I don't think he's going to pay it back. He did this and this. Is he going to pay it back? I don't know. If you ask me a question, I'm just going to answer you based on how you ask me. These things are between you and Allah. And keep this in mind, always, about everything. Like I say this about talaq masail all the time as well. No fatwa from a mufti can change the reality. Meaning if you tell somebody that XYZ, if you come and tell a mufti XYZ happened when you know XYZ did not happen. And mufti said, well, based on what you said, this is the hukum. You can't go on the day of judgment and show Allah, Mufti Sahib gave me this fatwa. Allah knows what happened and you know what happened. And you know what was the ruling. But you went and you tried to, Mufti Sahib se goli chalai. Like, doesn't work like that, right? Okay. Next, as an international, okay. I have taken a loan on 401k. Do I still need to pay zakat on the amount which I took a loan? Yes, you do. The reason is that taking a loan on a 401k and paying back in interest, this does not meet the Shari'i definition of interest. You took a loan from yourself. Meaning, I use some money and I have to put some money back in the 401k. No, here says I took a loan on the 401k. No, in this case, there should not be any zakat on it, right? Because it's your own money, right? So if you took a loan on the 401k, first of all, it is permissible to take it, regardless of the fact that they say interest. It's not interest, because you can't pay interest to yourself. The condition is interest is paid to somebody else. Number two, if you don't have the money in hand, right? If it's in hand, you're going to have to give zakat on it. But if you've already used it, it seems to me there should be no zakat on there. I'll look into it, inshallah, I'll consult it. But again, it's a debt to yourself, which doesn't really make, it's like basically forced saving that you're having to do. So there should not be any zakat on there. But again, I'll check with one of my colleagues, inshallah. Okay? If the total assets are less than, if the total assets are lesser than the total mortgage amount, do we still owe zakat? Again, you're going to look at the mortgage, only what's due in 1 year, and only the principal payments. Okay? You're not going to look at the entire $200,000, $300,000 mortgage. In that case, like, I don't know if anybody would have to pay zakat, right? You're going to look at 1 year. Okay, where do I distribute the zakat first? Here in America or my home country, or does it not matter? I'm going to say, whatever I say, this is like I said yesterday, you can't make anybody happy, right? Somebody's going to get mad, somebody's going to get offended. At the end of the day, the default is, what it says in the books of fiqh, is it's better to give zakat locally. That's what it says. But it says unless there's a strong reason to give it elsewhere. So then it says, for example, there's a war, or you have family members in another place, or this and that. The thing is, what I don't like to get into is, people in so-and-so country need it more than here. If we're honest, being poor sucks. Wherever you are, being poor is no good, right? A person here who's living paycheck to paycheck, a child who never gets to get anything and sees everybody, their life is difficult as well, right? I mean, many of us may have experienced those types of things. Like, life is not good. Over there, if everybody's poor, okay, they all know, like, that's the default. Whereas perhaps in America, they're living in poverty and they're seeing everybody around them with everything and they can't have things. It's I'm not saying one is worse than the other. You can't compare apples and oranges, right? Being poor is difficult wherever a person is. Yes, again, the default is it's better to give zakat locally. I do try to give locally, but then try to also send a little bit overseas if you want. Or if you have a relative, you can give overseas. Minhaj Bhai, he collects for overseas. Go ahead, you could give it to him. I have some contacts overseas. I collect for them as well. Though even I prefer to give it locally. So it's up to you. Again, you're going to look at the situation. You're going to look at the need. But again, it's not fair to say people overseas need it more than here. There are plenty of people who need zakat here as well. All right. Again, we're going to have to use our judgment and whatever you prefer. Okay. Does zakat need to be paid on inventory for a business on the value of items needing to be sold? Yes. You're going to look at what the sale price, what you sell, what the market price for those items are. on your inventory, you are going to give zakat. Because again, those things, they can easily be converted into cash for you. And inshallah, those things will get sold. So things that are in your business, that inventory, you will give zakat on the, some say market value, some say sale price. Okay, next. Where do I, does utilizing the tax benefits from zakat, charity payments, donations to religious organizations, halal? If yes, can we declare it zakat as personal expense? Kids, can you keep it down a little bit? Who's that? I know, Nabila, I know you're up there. Okay, now, does utilizing tax benefits from zakat, is it halal? If yes, can we declare zakat as a personal expense? It's permissible to utilize the tax benefits. If you paid zakat to an organization and they gave you a tax receipt, you could use all the benefits because your zakat was paid, right? And again, as I said, there's no good deed in paying extra taxes here, right? So yeah, you could go ahead and you could deduct it. Can we declare zakat as a personal expense? Sure, why not? As long as you're not breaking any tax laws. If the zakat is paid, if it's used, for the tax code over here, there's no problem. There's no sin. Paying zakat is a good deed, right? Paying taxes, overpaying taxes, no good deed. So again, whatever deduction you could take that's legal, go ahead and take it. Is a husband responsible to pay zakat on a wife and daughter's jewelry? No. Right? Yes, it would be nice if he does. He's allowed to, but it's not his requirement. To the extent that if he is not willing to pay it. Again, that could start a fight. I'm just telling you the Shari'i hukum. There's fatwa, there's taqwa. So if you want to keep the peace of your home, you're going to have to figure out that situation. But in terms of shar'an, husband does not have to pay the wife zakat, even if she has money. Keep this in mind too. Every Muslim's assets are considered separately. They're not joint. Even between husband and wife, your assets are, so if the husband and wife are both working, you don't give zakat joint, right? You keep track of, who earned what. If you have separate accounts, that's easier. If not, if it's a joint account, everything that's spent, let's say husband owns 60% of the income, he earns 60%, wife earns 40%. Every time that you're deducting from the bank account, it's going to be 60% is going away from the husband's asset, 40 from her assets, right? So each person has to pay their own zakat. Yes, culturally, husband usually pays the wife's zakat, but shar'an he doesn't have to. To the extent, if he's not going to pay zakat on her jewelry, she would have to sell her jewelry. She would have to sell the jewelry and pay zakat. If you say that's not fair, well, you have jewelry, right? And it's your wealth. And when there's a fight, when the, khuda na khasta, if there's fights in the marriage and then the husband's family tries to take the jewelry back and say, no, we just let you borrow it, you fight to keep it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the jewelry, so you have to pay zakat on it. If you don't have an income, well, that's part of the privilege that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this jewelry. And if you want, you could sell it. Right? So, but the husband doesn't have to, but he can. But remember, a condition for zakat, the condition for the validity of zakat is intention. So the wife has to know that the husband is paying her zakat. So she has to tell him, or the husband has to tell her, hey, I'm paying your zakat as well. At least one time, then year by year that can become a default. But without ever saying anything, if the husband just pays the wife zakat every year, her zakat is not fulfilled. Why? There was no intention there. Okay? Huh? Ji.
The daughter's share or take it as a consideration of only one person asset?
Okay, very good. So question is, when it comes to gold, let's say you purchase it with the intention to giving it to your daughters, but you haven't given it to them yet, etc. Who pays zakat on it? Is it joint? Basically, oh, yeah. So, so it comes down to ownership, right? Now, if you have told each daughter, this is yours, this is yours, this is yours, and they're not baligh, right? If they're baligh, if they're mature, you actually have to give it to them. Then you could take it, you could tell them, okay, we give it to you and now we're going to put it in a safe and all of that. But you have to give it to, if they're children and you buy it with the intention of buying it for them, but your intention is it's for my daughter, automatically it will go to them. But you have to know how much is going to each daughter. If you don't, if you haven't done that, then that's considered yours, because you still have discretion over it, right? I could give more to this one, I could give less. You know, maybe a person, they might buy in advance. I'm going to give this zakat if I have daughters or daughter-in-laws, and the person doesn't have children, right? So then it's considered yours, so you will give zakat on it. Another thing now related, children who are not baligh, though they have nisab, though they have all of that, they do not give zakat on their wealth until they become baligh. But once they become baligh, if they have the nisab, especially with girls with gold, they will have to give zakat. Now the parents can pay for it every year, but it's better to teach them, even if you pay it, tell them, look, let's calculate how much zakat you owe, so that growing up they know that it's an obligation. There's a lot of things that we don't tell our children. Like, for Hyderabadis, like for whatever reason, our women, they think you never have to do qada of rozas, of fasts. So like hundreds, I know so many women, hundreds of rozas they have to make up. They miss 4 or 5 every year. Then they have 4 kids, so they miss 2 Ramzans like that. And nobody ever told them when they were young, you have to make them up. Now, 20 years later, they have to make up fasts. So you have to tell them beforehand. So even if you're going to pay the zakat for them, tell them, or don't pay it. Say, okay, let's calculate every year. When you get a job, when you get married, then you're going to have to pay it. Why? So that they also have to do these ibadat as well. Okay. How is zakat calculated for short-term stocks owned less than 1 year? Do we just calculate zakat on the stocks you own at the moment of calculation? Yeah, that's what it is. What you own at the time of calculation, that's what you give zakat on. I've seen nisab being calculated based on gold and silver. How does it differ? Which nisab calculation, gold or silver, should be followed? Gold standard should be used. In America, what the fatwa is on is gold standard, gold nisab is used. They differ because in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's time, the nisabs that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, they were equal. Gold and silver, they were used. Silver still had some value, right? So these amounts, they were equal in value to one another. Now there's such a big disparity between silver and gold, though the value of silver is going up a little bit. The silver nisab is like nothing. It's like $500, right? A person who has $500, they're one car crash away, one medical bill away, one visit to urgent care away from being bankrupt, right? So the fatwa in America is that gold standard is used for nisab. Okay, somebody who has debts besides mortgage and is paying monthly to pay off the loan and debt, how to calculate zakat on other assets? Well, each asset is going to be considered independently. So you're going to calculate your cash, your stock, your 401k, your gold, all of that, you're going to calculate that. And then whatever debt you have, you're going to subtract it after you've already calculated all of your other assets. So when you're calculating your assets, don't think about your debts. Those are two separate things, right? Calculate your assets, then subtract your debts at the end. And then if the resulting number is more than the nisab, give zakat. If not, no zakat is due. Yes?
Apart from having that outside the personal loan, if you are not able to pay right now, or the student here because of your expenses, can you consider that while calculating the tax balance, asset balance at the end of the year? Because your intention is not to pay right now, because it's a personal loan, you can form family members.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot afford to do it.
Right.
Whether you are selling out of gold at pay level, so you're keeping that asset in cash, and you have a loan, so because your intention is not there to pay right now.
Regardless of whether you have the intention to pay the loan now or later, if it's a personal loan, you're still going to deduct it from your assets. So you even if you're going to pay it later, you'll still deduct that amount, the personal loans. Okay. If someone has leased a home, which is tradition back home, can this amount be deducted as a debt? Whatever 1 year's payment is, yeah, I think it's fair that you could deduct that as a debt. While paying my zakat, I prioritize my relatives who are financially poor, physically, socially struggling, widows and orphans. Is there an order of priority? No. Again, you're going to look at need, right? Sometimes there's an immediate need, sometimes there's a long-term need. Use your best judgment, and inshallah, it'll be a means of reward. Is zakat due for someone who died before their nisab date when their zakat is due and it is supposed to be paid before inheritance is disbursed? Well, if a person had paid all of their zakat every year and now their zakat year has not come around and they die in the middle of the year, no zakat is due on their wealth. The inheritance is going to be given. Yes, if they had zakat for years past that they haven't paid and they left a wasiyat saying that I owe this much zakat, then if up till 1/3 of their estate, their zakat will be paid off. And then if it goes beyond that, it's up to their inheritors if they want to pay the rest, but they're not obligated to do so. But if a person dies in the middle of their zakat year, there's no zakat due on their money. Whatever their estate is, it's going to go directly to the inheritors. While paying my zakat. Okay, if zakat is due, Are online zakat calculators accurate and can they be followed? Islamic Relief, I would never give zakat to them. But I don't know. I don't know how these calculators, how accurate they are or not. What I would do is, I made like a spreadsheet. You could plug your thing in there. Or very easily just add up your assets. Just add them up, literally. However you want to treat your 401k, we've gone over those 3 ways. It's simple adding, subtracting, and then at the end multiply by 0.025. That's really all it is. Addition, subtract, anybody with a calculator can do it. But I'm sure that these calculators are okay as they're using the formula. I know some of them are going to be skewed in the direction that they want you. Like there's one organization, they say that only put in your expenses for the next month, not the year. And then they also have a link so that you can immediately give them your zakat. So, I'm sure because it's just simple math. So they should be accurate. Can a Sayyid give his zakat to his relatives who are also Sayyid? So I saw this question yesterday. So I looked it up and no, they can't. Sayyid cannot give zakat to another Sayyid. Because it's not about who's giving to who. It's about the mahal. Who is receiving. And a Sayyid is, their status is far above them being given zakat. They should be honored and be given gifts and this and that. Again, as I told you, few scholars from each of the mazahib say it's okay, but it would be better to avoid and it would be better to give them more. I remember Maulana Mufti Taha Karan, rahmatullahi alayh, great alim. He was young when he passed away. He was a Shafi'i alim. So somebody asked him, so the fatwa was written, I read it. Somebody asked him, well, so-and-so scholars in the Shafi'i mazhab say that zakat can be given to a Sayyid, so I want to give my zakat to a Sayyid, is it okay? He said, he's like, this is not the mazhab, but although 1 or 2 scholars say that and some have given fatwa on this, I don't give fatwa on this because a Sayyid is far and above, and you tell me how much they need, I will give it from my own pocket, I will give it for the Sayyid out of the honor and love of this person being a Sayyid and being related to Rasulullah. If I have bought land in India, do I have to pay zakat for that land? Okay, when it comes to zakat on land, on real estate, it depends what is the purpose for buying the real estate. If you bought the land to build a home on it, right? No zakat, right? Because you're going to use it. If you bought a house over here, and your intention is you want to rent it out to people, you never want to live there, but you're just going to rent it out, no zakat on there. Zakat is only due on items that besides for the regular like liquid assets. Zakat is only due on items, on real estate, etc. when you buy them with the firm intention to resell. Okay? So, like let's say that I always wanted to drive a Corvette, right? Like I'm just giving an example. So what I do is, and I know that it's a waste of money and this and that. So what I do is I talk to Imam Ihsan, and say, man, find me a Corvette. So I buy a Corvette knowing I just want to drive it around the summer, show off to people so people could put nazar on me over here. And then I'm going to sell it at the end of the summer, right? I just want to drive it. I know I bought it with the intention to sell it. Yeah, I'm going to drive it around for a little while, but my main intention in buying it was I'm going to resell it at the end of the summer, right? So then I would give zakat on the value of that car. But in the course of me even driving it, I'm like, man, this is a nice car. This car suits me. I'm not going to sell it anymore. no more zakat. Even if I decide to sell it later on, after the winter, I'm like, oh man, I made a mistake. Even now, zakat is not going to be due. Once that intention to sell goes away, zakat is not going to be due. So anything that you buy with the firm intention of selling, zakat is going to be there. So now this piece of land, if you bought it and you said, I'm going to resell it because I know that the prices are going up and Hyderabad is getting land is expensive. I know within 2 years it's going to go up. I'm going to sell it in 2 years. Yeah, you're going to give zakat on the value of that land. If, however, you bought it and said, let me see what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll build something on it. Even if you say you buy it with a wait and see strategy, there's no zakat. Again, zakat is not a place where we take loopholes. Allah knows your intention, right? So be honest about your intention and decide what to do. Can one give zakat to their spouse? No, one cannot give zakat to their spouse. However, one cannot give zakat to their spouse, to their ascendants or their descendants. Meaning, zakat cannot be given to spouse, zakat cannot be given to parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. It cannot be given to children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Zakat can be given to siblings. It can be given to aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews. It just can't be given to your direct usul and furu, ascendants and descendants, parents, grandparents, etc. And you cannot give it to your spouse. Is zakat applicable to the gold you kept for under 12 years of age for a girl? It's not under 12 years, it's if the girl has become baligh and if she's had her cycle yet or not, right? So once she's had her cycle, if that zakat is, remember there's a nisab for gold as well. The gold has to be more than 87.5 grams of gold, right? So if she has more than 87.5 grams of gold, once she becomes baligh, from that day, that's when her zakat year starts. And you're going to look 1 year from now, most likely she'll still have the gold. But before she turns baligh, before she has her cycle, no zakat is due. A child can have $100,000. No zakat is due until they become baligh, boy or girl. Can I purchase a condo for a relative in India who does not own a house using my zakat money and paying an estimated zakat for the next few years in advance? If I understand correctly, what they're trying to say is that, let's say that a person, they want to use zakat money to purchase a condo that they are going to give to another relative, and however much money that they use, they wanted to apply for zakat in the years in the future. Yeah, that's permissible, provided that you actually make them the owner of that house. You hand over the keys and you hand over the deed to that person. Because zakat can be given in cash or in kind, right? So you could give items as zakat as well. So yeah, if you buy a house for somebody and you literally give them the house with no strings attached, yeah, that's fine. And if you paid more than what you would own zakat for this year, it could apply for years in the future, no problem. All right, before we go through these questions here, anybody here has a question? Because there's still a lot more of these questions. Anybody here has a question, or have your questions kind of been answered with these? Oh, yeah, sure. No, mashallah, I guess this online system is working well. Inshallah, we'll use it again. Instead of, do we have to, Jazakumullah, do we have to give zakat for jewelry of daughter who is under 10 years? If it's her jewelry, no. If it's yours and again you're like, maybe I'll give it to her, maybe I won't, maybe if I like this daughter better, maybe sometimes people have two daughters, one daughter is like more desirable, so you think it's easier for her to get married, you feel bad for the other one, so you give them jewelry. No, but if it's hers, if it's really hers, you don't have to give zakat if she's not baligh. When is it expected to pay zakat? When your income is stable, corrected? No, when you have more than the nisab for 1 year. That's when you're expected to give zakat, regardless of whether a person has a fluctuating income, even if a person is out of a job, right? But they have more than the nisab and their zakat year comes around, they have to calculate their zakat. If they're not comfortable giving it at that time, fine. Record the amount and then pay it at a later time. If I got married 9 months ago, do I have to pay zakat for the gold that was gifted during my wedding? Good question. Now, we don't consider every aspect of our assets separately. We join them all together. Unless you have animals, which I don't think anybody but Basha Bhai has, right? So he has a whole different set of calculations. Otherwise, besides for that, you lump all your assets together, right? So now the question is, did you have nisab before you got married? If you had the nisab before you got married, when your zakat year comes around, all of that gold is just going to be added to your assets and you give zakat on it. If you didn't have nisab prior to getting married, that zakat, if the value of it, remember, and how you calculate the value, call some jewelers, ask how much it is. If it's bumped you over the nisab amount, right? Now you're going to wait until 1 year passes, right? If I need to pay zakat on gold, should I deduct the amount I originally charged for wastage when calculating its value for resale? What does wastage mean? What is wastage? The scrap metal. Yeah. Okay, no, you don't deduct this. Basically, like either you take the scrap metal price of the gold or just call the jeweler and say, how much will you buy this amount of gold from me? You're not going to deduct on top of that.
Now the market rate for 22 carat is $150, but when you want to sell it as a scrap, it's 100, 100 less. They can give you $20 more, 150 based on the gold.
Quality. Yeah, so again, whatever the jeweler tells you, you're not going to make any additional deductions. Whatever they tell you, that's the amount that the gold is worth to you. Or you could take the scrap price. Do you give zakat on gold which you have been using regularly? According to Hanafi madhab, yes you do. According to Shafi'is, you don't. But really, in reality, Hanafi madhab is much stronger here. Why? Because anytime you can go to any store, we buy gold. The Hanafi says, look, gold, it was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Gold and silver, their default purpose is to be a currency. Because women have a need within them to be beautified, it's a rukhsa. It's a dispensation for them to be allowed to wear jewelry. That's why men are not allowed to wear jewelry, because gold and silver are currency, right? All these guys were walking around with these bracelets is haram, right? Only thing that a man can wear is a silver ring, right? Necklaces, chains, all haram for men. Now, if a woman is wearing it at a time of need, she can sell the gold, right? She can sell the silver. So yes, zakat is due on it. Again, if you follow the Shafi'i mazhab, then you don't give zakat on it. But I think the default here is Hanafi, and there's a few, Salafis, ghair muqallid. But if you're Hanafi, you should pay zakat. Don't just pick and choose over here. How do you calculate the zakat on a rental property from which you get rental payments? If this is your only source of income, retired, I live with my kids. You don't have to calculate the zakat on your rental properties, right? All you do is when your zakat year comes around, however much money you have in your assets, you use it. So if you're getting rental income, you're using, it's just mixed in with your other income, you're using some of it is left over. Whatever is left over at the end of the year, when your zakat year comes around, you pay zakat on it. Remember, zakat is not income tax. It doesn't matter how much came in during the course of the year. It just matters what you have at the end of your zakat year. How can you repeat the answer? If a person didn't decide that he want to sell it or not, the property, does he have to pay the zakat? If the person does not, okay, at the time of purchase, if a person has a firm intention that they want to sell, they will have to give zakat on the value of that house, even if it takes them years to sell the place. If the person is not sure what they want to do with the land, when they buy it, they will not give zakat. If a person owns land or any other thing, then decides to sell it, like I decide to sell my car, for example, there will not be zakat on it until it's sold, and that money will be added to your assets, and when your zakat year comes around, then you give it. The only time you will give zakat on merchandise or on land is when you buy it with the express intention of selling. If you own a house and now you put it on the market and your zakat year comes around, you don't give zakat on the value of the house, right? Only after the house is sold, whatever money is left, again, when your zakat year comes around, the house is sold, you're probably going to use some of that money, right? You will give zakat on that. I want to just add in, how do I calculate? I might have missed a question because sometimes they come up and down on here. Since the nisab is 9,000 and I have 10K, okay, there's a question. Since the nisab is 9,000 and I have 10K, should I pay 2.5% on 10K or 1K? On 10K. Once you're above the nisab, you give zakat on the entire amount. Nisab is not standard deduction. That's the thought, right? Nisab is not the standard deduction. Once you're above nisab, you give zakat on the whole thing.
Again, when you are deducting the loan, sorry, I'm repeating the question, but if you are deducting the loan, you deduct on the gross value before the card amount, or you deduct
Gross value. Okay, let's say nisab is 9,000, you have 10,000, and your loan is 5,000. From 10,000, subtract 5,000. Now your zakat asset base is 5,000, nisab is 9,000, you don't have to give zakat. Is that clear? Like I was in this situation. I took a bunch of loans from people, right? And I didn't have to give zakat for years, right? This is a large amount and they were all personal loans. There wasn't any strategy. It was, I had to buy a house. Yes.
So once you pay the zakat on that 10K, do you have to again repay, calculate that next year?
Okay, once you pay the zakat on the 10,000, you don't the next year when the year comes around, you're going to look how much money do you have. Again, you're going to see, am I above the nisab? So let's say I don't want to use Ramzan as an example because people think zakat is due in Ramadan, which is not the case, right? So let's say that your zakat year comes on Rajab first, okay? First of Rajab. So on year 1, you paid zakat on your 10K. Next year, on Rajab 1, you're going to see what is the nisab. Because remember, nisab is going to fluctuate because it's tied to the gold price. What is nisab? Do I have more or less? If you have more than the nisab, you give zakat again.
So do I add that 10K on which I already paid the zakat to the total amount that I
The total amount that you have. You don't add or subtract or anything. You just look on your zakat date total, regardless of whether you paid zakat in the past year or future year or anything. So it's not like, okay, I paid zakat on this 10K, now this 10K is exempt forever. It's not like that. So that's like what these like accounts are, like an IRA or a 401k. Every year you're paying zakat on it, right? Even though you're not touching that money for some time. You know, I'm just going to add in one thing here. The 4 questions came. I don't even know where they showed up now. Okay, I got a request to arrange for iftar and dinner for a small poor village. Can we use zakat money for this purpose? Allahu Akbar. Technically you can, but the thing is, when you give zakat, 100% of the money has to go to the poor people, right? 100% of the money or something purchased with the money has to go to the poor person. So, like what we tell people, if you want to distribute food to people with zakat, right? What you should do is give them in disposable containers. Why? Because even the disposable containers that you purchase, the miskin, the faqir, they're getting that as well. So all of the money is going to them. If you're going to sponsor this zakat in a village, etc., whatever the case is, make sure that none of the money is being used for overhead costs, none of the money, the food is being wasted, etc. That's why it's better that it's boxed up. There's a difference between giving food to somebody and making food halal for somebody. When you have a dawat at your house, what you're doing is you're not giving food to people. You're making the food halal for people. That's why if a person starts taking food without you telling them take something, everybody's going to look at them like, what's wrong with you, right? Because the food has not been given. In zakat, you have to give the food. So if you arrange it such that there's like a box distribution where you're handing it off, that's fine. If it's just a bunch of food is going to be cooked, some is going to be left over, anybody can come, I would give sadaqah for that. I would not give zakat for it. Can zakat be given to an ascendant or descendant of a spouse? Yes. If you really, it's a huge test. If you're giving zakat to your mother or father-in-law, that's a real test for you. Yeah, you're allowed to, but your wife can't give to her parents, but you could give to your in-laws. That's fine. My brother is getting married in need of money for expenses. Can I give zakat to him? Yeah, technically you can if he's under the nisab, but keep in mind, you have to look at, is the person worthy of my zakat as well? I'm going to just transition to something. You might have read this thing because I keep posting about it, that these people, they said that you could give zakat to, basically give zakat to Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, give them zakat too, right? Give zakat to political campaigns. Why? Why they say this? Why? Because they view zakat to be as a instrument of distributing wealth, right? Of achieving different needs in the society. But zakat, first and foremost, is in ibadah, right? Technically, if your brother doesn't have the nisab, and I'm going to close the Q&A now because a lot of questions are coming. So Q&A is now going to be closed. Okay, now, if the zakat is, for example, kya bolte, if you give it to your brother, by the letter of the law, he's able to get it, right? But you know that he's chilling, he's living a good life, he's driving a nice car and stuff like that. Was he worthy of giving your zakat? It's probably not the best person to give it to. Use your judgment. Like, look, a person with student loans. Technically, you could give them zakat. But if you see they're not making any interest to pay down these loans, and you see them, they're buying a Tesla, they're buying a house, they're buying this and that, they're not aggressively paying down their loans, I wouldn't give them zakat, right? But yeah, technically you can. Who is qualified as a poor person here? How would I know if the person I'm giving zakat is poor? Is there any criteria? If the person does not possess the nisab, then they're poor. The zakat is, nisab means, above nisab means you're rich, shar'an, and below nisab means, or is it rich or, well off, and below nisab means that you're poor. So a person below the nisab is technically eligible to receive zakat, provided they're not a sayyad and a relative, like a spouse or something. Technically they're able to receive zakat, but again, you should also screen and see that, is it a good use of my zakat? Is there somebody more needy? The other thing, like, well, how do I know if they have the nisab or not? One thing, if the person is asking for zakat, like, you could ask them straight up. If you're a masjid, it's your duty to have, some screening process, right? It is the duty of the masjid to have some screening process to make sure the person is zakat eligible, right? And then other than that, you look at the zahir hal of the person as well. Is it possible that they have $10,000 of cash under a mattress in their home? Sure it is. But you're looking at their zahir hal, you tried your best to find out, you asked a few other people, and then you give them zakat, right? For babies born after 2025, US is giving 1K to the baby Trump account and it's expected to increase. How should I pay zakat for that? Well, the good thing is you don't have to give zakat till your child turns 12 or 13. Do make sure though that the underlying assets in the Trump account, you have control over where it's being invested, because if it's being invested in bonds or other haram things, you can't just assume that it's halal. It may be, but you have to see what are they investing it in, right? But you don't have to give zakat on it until the child turns, baligh, which would be 12, 13 years down the line, and that would be your child's problem. Not problem, honor. I'm just joking. Honor. Instead of giving cash to somebody back home, can we deliver the groceries to their house from zakat money? Absolutely, absolutely. And that would be good. If some people are irresponsible with money, if you give them something that they could use, that will be of use to them, you might want to give them that thing instead of giving them money. Okay, I think that we got every question. I'm sure there would have been more, but I closed it because, you know what, I'll open it because there's 39, we'll make it 40. 40 is a number, 40 hadiths, 40 years, 40 days chilla, right? We'll keep people happy for 40. If anybody wants to add one more question, you could add it, but I'm going to close the Q&A after that. Or if somebody here wants to ask a question, you could ask that, then I'm going to close the Q&A. And if nobody is going to add anything, takallufan, I'm not going to keep this open. Ji.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
If giving zakat, you cannot dictate terms to anyone, right? How they should be using it.
Yes. Did you want to say more? Yeah. So this is exactly what Umar Bhai is saying, is that when you give zakat, the proof that you've actually made them the owner is you do not dictate the terms to the person. Meaning you give them the money and they can use it however. There can't be strings attached. I'm giving you this zakat money and you need to pay for your school with it. However, again, like if the person is, okay, we got to the 40th question. If the person is irresponsible, right? There are ways that you can help them. Help them by giving them something that they could use. Or what they could do, like let's say somebody, they're irresponsible and you know that they need to pay some fees, school fees or whatever, right? You need to pay that for them. But you know that if you give them the money, they're not going to use it. What they could do is they could appoint a wakil. Like what they could do is they could tell you, give the zakat money to my father and he will pay my tuition. Now, when a person appoints somebody as their wakil, as their representative to take zakat for them, right when you give them the zakat, the wakil, the zakat, it's fulfilled. I'll give you an example. One of my friends, their family asked me to pay, to find people to give zakat, right? So they wanted to give it to scholars. So I asked, I found certain scholars who were, who were zakat eligible. I told them, I said, guys, make me your wakil to take zakat for you. The purpose of that was, the second that she gave me the money, her zakat was done. Regardless of whether I delivered to them or not, I did deliver it to them. But sometimes it gets delayed, right? With like Zelle and this and that, things get delayed. Or khuda na khasa, something could have happened, right? I would be responsible, but that person's zakat is fulfilled, right? So if that person who's kind of irresponsible, if they say, okay, make somebody my wakil, okay, you give my dad my zakat, the zakat you're going to give me, then the second you give it to that, your zakat is done. Now what the dad does, that's up to him. Okay, does it mandatory to tell them that it's from zakat? This is a very good question. It is not necessary that the person knows the money that they're getting is zakat. You could tell them that it's a gift, you could tell them whatever, but sometimes it's awkward to tell somebody, right? Especially if they're not asking, if it's a family member, if it's a friend. No, you have to have the niyat that it's zakat. You could call it whatever you want. It just comes down to your niyat at the time of giving it. And of course, they have to be zakat eligible. Inshallah, subhanallah wa bihamdik, subhanakallahum bihamdik, nashadu wa la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala